I am back today with Larry Rideout. Thank you for doing another topic with us. Something that we skimmed over quickly in our first episode that we did together was mergers and acquisitions. And I think that it's a very hot topic right now. And I know that you grew Gibson initially really through M&A in that first downturn that you and Paul faced. So I think it's something that's front of mind for people. And what I find really interesting is a lot of people who either want to potentially sell their business, and if you're even thinking about it, there's so many things you should do to get your house in order and get an education before you start that conversation. But then there's a lot of people who've never done an acquisition or a roll-in, and we can talk about what that even is, that may have an opportunity to do one. So 2 parts here. I would love to talk through. I'm somebody that's considering maybe at some point in the next few years selling. What do I need to be thinking about? What do I need to be doing? And then vice versa, or maybe you're both, I don't know, right? But I'm looking and I'm someone that is in growth mode and I have an appetite, but I've never done an acquisition. And this will be kind of 101. But if you could talk us through what you did in terms of the last downturn, the roll-ins and acquisitions that you did. You don't have to go through every single one. And some of the ones that we've done, obviously we've done a lot since then. I've been able to work really closely with you and I've loved this part of the business because I think why we do so well with it is we try so hard to preserve people's legacies. We care so much about the agent base, the company, what they liked, what we can do to improve upon, like that foundation. So it's not just numbers to us. And in this last boom, a lot of venture capital and things like that have come into the industry, and that's not even on their radar. It's all just numbers, and that didn't really necessarily work for most of the companies we would work with because people put their blood, sweat, and tears into their companies. So we can talk about our method and things like that, but I guess let's start with just what you've done. I know you started obviously way back with Realty, which is now Anywhere, doing this for other companies, which is how you ended up then here. So if you can talk us through that and just where we are today.
Yeah, I always joke, I'm like the president of the hair club for men. I liked it so much I did it myself. But the bottom line is the merger acquisition aspect of a company, if they have a growth intent, is extremely important. And I'll stay at 10,000 feet because there's a lot involved in it. But the reality is it's, first and foremost, culture fit has to happen. That's probably the most critical piece of this. You have to meet with a company that's potentially thinking about selling in person, have lunch with them, have coffee with them, have an open conversation, and get the sense of whether it's all going to work. Because the worst thing you can do is buy a company that doesn't work and doesn't fit. And I can tell you, we've done it. We've done it a couple of times. We've done about 15 merger acquisitions, and a couple of them haven't been the best that could be. And we didn't do a good job at that. And we learned from it though. And I think we've done very well in the last few times, last 10 times maybe. But
it's okay. If
it's okay.
Like it's like dating.
The great news is if you don't fail, you don't know what you're doing wrong. And that's really what we keep trying to, we keep trying to move forward and do what we have to do. But the reality is if you want to sell, you have to think about that maybe a year or so ahead of time, a couple of years ahead. You have to get your house in order. Everything has to be in order. It's all about the numbers in the end.
Right.
In terms of what the agreement of the money is. But the reality is the most critical piece to me is if that owner is worried about their agents more than they're worried about the money. I mean, that's a conversation I get around to every time just to see. If I meet someone 3 times and all they talk about is what the number's going to be, I realize that they're just concerned for themselves and not for their agents. Maybe they're not the culture that fits our culture. The other thing you want to, and again, I'm giving advice that you don't need, but the other thing you want to do is don't grow for growth's sake, grow in a strategic way. And what we've always tried to do is follow the leads. Wherever the company seems to be impacting that we're not there, we may go look there and find someone that we can join and have a flag in that marketplace. It's a lot of common sense stuff, but it isn't really, when you get down to the details. But if you want to sell, you need to prepare for that. You can't just make a decision today and say, okay, I'm going to sell, here's my numbers. You want to make sure that you have your house in order before you start talking to someone about an acquisition. We have developed in our leadership team, which excites me, is maybe a 3-facet opportunity. There's people that don't want to sell today, but they could use our back office, they could use our structure, they could use our support. And so we want to offer several opportunities to people. Maybe it's a 3-year buyout, maybe it's a 5-year buyout. We're still working on that, but there's opportunities out there for everybody, depending where they are in their lives.
Yeah, we're really excited to be putting some really creative ways together because we've done so many. And something that might be a little controversial to say, but it's like, don't wait too long. I think that we see that too much, and it does make us sad, because it's like there are people that have built these incredible. It's almost like building an incredible home, and then like getting a little too far away from keeping up with it, things like that, and then eventually the number goes down and down and down, and there's nothing that we or they could do at that point. And it's probably not something that we should. It's a tough topic to talk about, but I guess the point is, I think no matter what, from what I've seen, and now at this point, like 15 plus acquisitions, if I were to give one piece of advice from what I've observed, it's if you want to buy or sell, you should get your house in order, because as a buyer, so as a company that's going to acquire companies, it is so different when you have the education on your own, right? Because it is hard to hear a number. When you've put the amount of work that people have put into these companies, there's no number that's ever good. But if you have your own in your head and you understand it and you know how you can work the P&L, or you know how you could talk with someone, I think it's just good across the board right now to say, anybody in the business that's an owner should probably go and get those financials done and figure out where they stand, because it will just help them with the conversation. And if it's in the back of your head, at least start to think about it, know who's out there, and don't wait that little bit too long. Can we talk a little bit about George? Because I think that we should give him a plug. He's done so much for us.
Sure, I love him. There's a gentleman, one of the things we have learned over the years is that it's good to have a third party do the financial analysis. It takes a little of the emotion out of it for the buyer and the seller, because it's a number on the table. It's not a number that either one created or tried to find out about. And George Slusser, who's a dear friend of mine, does that sort of work analysis, and he does it so well, and he does it so calmly. There's no emotion in him. It's just about the financial numbers, and he explains them the way they need to be. And he's helped me enormously in the last probably 5 transactions, because I don't want to be the one saying, this is the number I think I'm going to pay you. It's like, this is the number. Now let's talk about how we get around it. So yeah, George, if you ever, again, we're out here, I'm not going to try to grow my competition. I mean, I'm not going to pretend I'm doing that, but if I can ever help in any way from a 10,000 foot view, I'd be glad to do that. We've been through a lot of them. We've made some good mistakes and we've learned from them, and it's a viable option for growth, and it's a viable option for exit. And to Nicole's point, don't wait too long. I'm a softie, I'm an emotional guy, and if I can't acquire your company because there's really, I can't get it jump-started again, that hurts me. That makes me feel bad, because I know people put a lot of time and effort into a company. I know what they put into it. We've done it. I know the blood, sweat, and tears, and don't wait beyond what you should be waiting. And if you have a question about that, talk to me. We can talk about it, and I can give you an assessment of what you look like. Again, I'm not trying to go out and buy out a lot of companies. I just have been doing this for a lot of years and be glad to help anyone I can in any way that I can.
And your assets have legs, and that's the important piece, is overnight that number can change dramatically, and usually you have a sense that that's kind of something that's ahead. So,
and if you're an acquirer, if I can interrupt, if you're an acquirer, I'll give you a key advice is build something that people want to be a part of. If you're not doing that right now, you're not going to be attractive to anyone. So if you're thinking about becoming an acquirer, make your company someplace that everybody wants to be. I feel great about our company because I feel like we support our agents enough, and the marketplace knows us enough to know that we're for real, and we are who we are. What you see is what you get. If what you see is what you get isn't attractive, you're not going to have much success in merger acquisitions.
Yeah, and it has to be a step up. And that's not to say it's better, but we have a lot more scale and a lot more resources at this point. We've spent the better part of 10 years figuring out how to scale this company, how to give in a way that gives the agents the most that we can. And like I said, I think when we look at it, it doesn't matter if it's 10 agents or 100 agents or 200 agents, there's something that they liked about where they are. There's a culture there. We want to preserve that. We want to keep what they like. And then we also want to add more. And that's how we manage to keep those assets, because this is a different type of structure. And that's a whole different ball game that we can get into another podcast. But yeah, I think it's important to put it out there that is always an option for people, and that it's not something that you should shy away from. It's almost like getting on the scale. Like it's like doing video or whatever it is. It's like not getting on video doesn't mean that you don't look like that, right? Like not getting on the scale doesn't mean that's not what you weigh. Like you need to just find out what it is and get comfortable with that number, or see it and then say, okay, this is what I weigh. What do I have to do to get to where I want to be? Like, that's what I think is interesting about a profit and loss sheet is it's kind of like a puzzle. You can look at your own and know that I want to plan for I want to plan to sell in 3 years, and this is what I'd like it to look like. And there's things that you can do and levers you can pull, but you can't pull those levers with 3 days to go because you heard from George that the company's not worth what you want it to be. So I think that was one thing I think is just a really good time to start thinking about this for people because a lot of people aren't going to want to ride this next shift. So we obviously walked through your whole past, not your whole past, but we walked through that, and then we walked through the past of the company, and what was the constant theme is that there is always going to be challenges, right? You've gone through, we could write a book over all the things that you and Mom have come up and down and up and down, and I think that that's another thing that we have to mention is like having that partner, having that foundation, like is, from what I can see from you guys, like was everything. And so there's so much that we could say, and I'd love to sit here for hours and hours, but I'm sure you don't have the time. But I think coming through all of that now, we're sitting here, right, with our 400 and something agents and 25 offices and all of our staff, and people are like, okay, I know I can trust this team. I know I can trust Larry and Paul that we're going to get through whatever this next shift is going to be, which, by the way, they say is going to be short no matter what. But what is ahead? What's coming for Gibson? What can they count on to see? Because I think that we want to make sure that everyone does feel that longevity that we feel. What's ahead for the company?
Yeah, I think, the saying slow and steady wins the race is really, we've been doing that. We'll have, on December 1st, will be 16 years Gibson Sotheby's International Realty, which is pretty exciting to me.
Do you want to know how old I was at?
Looking back, you were...
Gibson's been in my life as long as...
When you were 15, we started,
16,
right? 16, yeah. So that gives you a sense. And my family's very much involved in my company. She mentioned my wife, and I couldn't have done any of this stuff without having her support me, which means essentially raising the family while I flew around the country with Realty. So she's been a big part of all of this, and I would like to thank her publicly for that. That's a nice thing to do. And the story we'll allude to that Nicole keeps alluding to is that when I was in Realty, she being Nicole, called me out to, because I had told her when she got into high school, she and Amy, who also works for me, when they get in, they were very athletic and they had a lot of sports going on, and I said I would be there for them. And that was impossible with Realty because I used to leave on Monday and come back on Friday. So she called me out for that and said, you said you were going to be here. So I quit and didn't know where I was going to go, and we ended up doing this. And how wonderful that was. You
and Mom went for martinis, which you never do.
Did, yeah.
And you had no idea what you were going to do.
The waitress asked us if, what are you celebrating? I said, I'm not really celebrating anything. I just quit my job. Oh, what are you going to do? I said, I don't have a clue. we quit. And that's what we did. And then this came around, and oh my, what a great opportunity it turned out to be. But slow and steady wins the race. And what I'm saying is we all have to be strategic in our growth. That you can't, there's no money falling from the sky that's going to help you grow in a crazy way. And it also isn't a good thing. Many times you've seen that happen. People try to just grow for the sake of growth, and that's not a good foundation. That's not a good legacy. In my mind, we're going to continue to look at opportunities. We're going to continue to recruit amazing agents, and last week was a week full of talking to some of the best agents I've seen in a long time outside of my company, and it's exciting because it means that people are actually thinking about their future and who they want to be affiliated with, and that's an exciting opportunity. I hope we can get a couple of them. If we don't, I still had great conversations, and I met some good people, and we'll always be circling around each other one way or another.
Yeah, no, thank you, because I think that's what I feel like too when I look ahead, and obviously that's a lot of what I do is plan for the future, and a lot of planning for the future is just being that steady hand and continuing on the way we've continued. And I hate to say it, but it's like this last boom in this last market has been such that people got it to come in and be the shiny object, and we persevered and we held our line. Because we know that we have that good foundation, and we want to show up every day for our agents in a way that they know they can count on us to show up tomorrow like that. And we have amazingly loyal agents, and everybody has held that line with us. Mostly everybody that's a part of our amazing team. So I think that that's the big thing that I'm excited for is with this shift and with what's ahead for Gibson. It's like, if there is, what is to be expected, a little bit of a shift in the market. This is when people like us and like our professional agents, that flight to quality happens. People that have shown up every day, done their job, and been true to themselves and to their people. That's who's going to thrive right now. People that were really, really busy with the shiny object. I think that's kind of coming to a point right now, coming to a head.
Yeah, it's a professionals market now, and that's what we all have to be professionals. We have to. I keep saying steady hand because I think that's the most important thing that we have as leaders, and leadership team has to be a steady hand for our associates. Our associates have to do that for their clients and customers. Everybody has to know that we're all being honest and we're talking about what's really out there and what the opportunities are. And there are opportunities. I mean, we haven't had to negotiate home inspections for 2 years, probably or more. That's part of our business. It's always been part of our business, but now it's surprising to people. And what we have to do is get over the surprise, prepare our clients and understand these things are going to happen. Let the sellers know we're probably not going to sell it in 3 hours. It's going to happen. There's going to be a process to do that. And let our buyers know. Give our buyers the steady hand because they're just as nervous. We still have a huge demand. There's still a multitude of buyers out there. It's up to us to educate them enough to know that they can still move forward and stay ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. Evolving together and making sure that we're keeping the sellers, like you said, communicating. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I feel like we could sit for hours, and we might have to jump into a couple more topics down the road, but this is great, and I'm so excited to be kicking off this series. I hope that if you have something you do want to hear more about or dive a little bit deeper into, you know who you can reach out to let us know what you want to hear. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is kind of fun. It's something, like I said, 15 years ago, I wouldn't think I'd be sitting here talking to my daughter about the real estate industry, so it's very exciting to me.
We always say, the new theme that I say right now is that we've, for a long time, been the best kept secret because, like you said, we're working the hardest, and we weren't worried about telling everybody, we're worried about doing it right. And I think that this is a great way for us to provide value and talk about what we're doing versus a different way of doing it. But I think this should be really helpful, and I want everybody to hear your story and to feel the confidence that I feel on this ship throughout whatever we're coming at right now. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.